The Galaxy S25 Ultra is a device that I had a lot of, you could say, bad thoughts about before getting my hands on one. It's been 2 weeks now since I've been using this phone, and I'm actually quite surprised at what Samsung has done here. Truth be told, there's not a lot that is new here aside from the design. However, it's the refinements that actually make this device something potentially worth looking into. What I do want to do in this video is talk about what my 2 weeks has been like with this device, especially compared to what it has been like as someone who uses a Galaxy Z Fold for their main device. And no, my screen is not broken on my Fold here. This is just the stupid screen protector coming up like always. Anyway, these are my thoughts and insights on the Galaxy S25 Ultra so far 2 weeks in. In true fashion for me, none of these are going to be in order, but they're all going to contribute to my overall thoughts about this device, so let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing I would say that has stuck out to me is just how light this device really truly is. Like I said, I'm used to using the Galaxy Z Fold 5 as my daily driver. It's interesting, when you look at this device, it seems like something that would weigh a lot, and really it weighs nothing compared to my Fold 5. Of course, the Fold 5 is like 2 screens or 3 screens in one, but ultimately, I think that this definitely makes for a phone that's very easy to handle, even with the sort of squarish sides that Samsung is going with here. And no, these sides here don't dig into your palms as much as older Ultra series devices have. The next thing that I'm really a fan of here is the screen to bezel ratio. So you can see here, like right here, that is exactly where the bezel is and the screen begins. Back in the old days, I would say Samsung has always had very thin bezels. You do get a very, very good screen to body ratio. Now, the funny thing is, as you can see here, this is my Z Fold 6 on the right, and you can see just how thick that bezel is there. Now, this is a 6.7-inch screen. This is a 6.9-inch display here. So that tells you a lot. You really do get the biggest display I think you can possibly get on a candy bar phone, unless Samsung sometime within the next few years just kind of makes the phone bigger, then gives you like a 6 point whatever comes after 6.9 display. But yeah, any sort of media you're watching on this phone, you're gonna get one of the thinnest bezels around, if not the thinnest bezel on a big device like this. The next thing I can say about the S25 Ultra is that it is by far my favorite display to use aside from my Fold here. Now, like I said, my screen protector is peeling on my Fold 5, so don't worry about these little bubbles here. Ultimately, what I do like about this display is, again, that whole bezel just being that thin. It gives you so much more room to actually enjoy what you're seeing and not having to worry about a border. And that is really the reason why I went for the Fold. However, one of the things about the Fold is that it is pretty heavy. I mean, I've heard the Fold 6 is definitely lighter, but this is pretty heavy, and that doesn't really bode well when you're watching a video laying down in bed or anything like that. Like, I've had this thing fall on my face a few times and it's not fun. So what I do like with the S25 Ultra is the just maximum display you get here, and this is it on top of the Fold. So you can see here, yes, the Fold does give you quite a bit more, but for some people that's not necessary. So if I had to give up my Z Fold 5 and use the S25 Ultra, I would definitely be fine. Also, the color representation on the S25 Ultra is definitely going to be better than what you will get on the Fold. Samsung isn't really that far into making, I mean, I guess they kind of are. This is the 5th one, but the screen technology that you just get here on the S25 Ultra is just, it's better and brighter, and it looks more detailed. You just get more details in that regard. Something I'm really not a fan of here is the fact that Samsung has removed the Air Action functionality from the S Pen here. Now, the whole point of the Ultra series is, for one, to take over from the Note series. These are the spiritual successors of that series. And for two, it's called Ultra. It's supposed to give you every single thing that Samsung has available that they can fit into a candy bar phone. But this does not have Air Actions. They've removed them. And just to let you see here, see, no Air Actions. anything I do here, nothing happens. Even when I go into the settings and go to S Pen, you can see Air Command is here. However, there are no air actions here. So in my opinion, Samsung really didn't have to go ahead and remove this. Even if there are case studies for it saying that, people didn't use it that much, it's still something that people use, and it's still something that became a signature of the Ultra series, of course, taking over from the Note series. So yeah, I just felt like it was really, really unnecessary for them to remove it, and I'm hoping they put it back. I did also see a video out there that stated that the hardware is actually there for a battery-powered S Pen, potentially, but yeah, Samsung didn't have to go and do this. Sticking with another thing with the S Pen, honestly, this S Pen feels cheap as hell. Like, the S Pen hasn't always been this thing that's been super premium and everything, but it's felt good to use. It's had the texture that I like and everything, but for some reason, Samsung removing the capacitor that stored the electricity to make it do those air actions in here seems to have made this S Pen just kind of feel like a toy. Like, to me, this S Pen feels like if Lego made a Galaxy S25 Ultra playset and they give you an S Pen. Like, that's how cheap it feels. As a matter of fact, it even feels cheaper than the S Pen that I bought for my Z Fold 5 here. This has this kind of like rounded square texture and everything, and there's just enough length to it for it not to feel like terribly cheap. But yeah, I don't know what the heck they were thinking making this S Pen feel like this. So if you are someone who's used it for drawing and things like that, just get ready. I think it's also a bit shorter than most S Pens too. I don't really know. It feels shorter, but yeah, just get ready for it to feel a tad bit different. That I do think is going to be favorable to people who play games on their phone or do like really, really graphically intensive work is the fact that this phone performs. It's actually pretty amazing. I don't personally play games on my phones, but you can see here that this 3D Mark test that I use states that the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra can outperform 99% of the phones in this test. So to kind of give you an idea of the performance, let me just go ahead and run a little bit of this test. And like I said, I don't play games on my phones. I have dedicated gaming devices for that if I want to, but hopefully this is coming through on camera. This is the smoothest I have ever, and I repeat, ever seen this test run. So Samsung going ahead and partnering with Snapdragon to make Snapdragon processors as efficient, or rather a dedicated Snapdragon processor for Samsung's devices, has really, really paid off in my opinion. As someone who has been delving deeper into the art of photography and by proxy videography more for the last year or so, one of the features I do appreciate that Samsung has added to its camera is the ability to shoot in log. Unfortunately, I don't do nearly as much video on my Sony a7 IV, but I know that shooting in different log formats is something that the camera is actually able to do. I do have to say that I am happy that Samsung has added this pro level feature here, even if it seems like a response to another feature from one of its main competitors. I haven't tried grading any of this footage, but if you'd like to try it for yourself, I have a link with all of the log footage I captured. Feel free to go ahead and download these samples and see what you can do with them. Also, fair warning, I did actually forget to set my ISO and other exposure variables, but either way, these samples should give you an idea of what the log footage is capable of coming out of the S25 Ultra. One feature that I did get excited about during Samsung's presentation is the addition of virtual aperture. I'll admit that I went into this really not having an opinion on it, but I also do remember when Samsung came out with variable aperture on the Galaxy S9, and during my photography journey, I've learned just how important it is to be able to control the aperture. Unfortunately, my excitement was kind of tamed after realizing that this was almost nowhere close to an actual lens with an actual aperture blade setup. I don't know what kind of trickery is going on here, but I noticed that you really can't get anything in focus unless it's relatively close, and even then, it's still kind of hard to make out. I guess this is why this is a Galaxy Lab feature and why it's also only accessible within the Expert RAW app. I am kind of hoping that Samsung can either improve on the feature, or maybe this is just an indicator that they'll start adding variable apertures back to future phones. One thing that was kind of interesting to me is that with the 25-watt charger that everybody and their mother probably has, if you've had a Samsung device before, I think this gets a decent amount of charge. And yeah, maybe that sounds weird. However, your device never fully charges at the max wattage this can provide. The last time I did a charging test, the phone was at 48% and it was 4:53 p.m. I charged it until about 5:06 p.m., actually more precisely 5:06 p.m. And at that time I was at 66%, which means that's 18% back, which is, it's pretty decent, especially for not having the actual 45-watt charger that this charges on wired. The last thing I want to say here is that the battery life on this phone has been surprisingly good. I've been able to get around 10 hours with heavy usage, and in some cases about a day and a half, give or take. I'm usually really skeptical about battery life claims from any manufacturers, but here it seems like the claims Samsung made are closer to being true, and that's always a good thing. All right, so that is all I have for you all right now with my 2 weeks with this device. Like I said, this was pretty surprising. I did not expect at all to really like this device. Not that I would hate it, but it was just something that I didn't really think would catch me by surprise the way that it did. It's kind of like the Galaxy Watch Ultra, and even the Galaxy Watch Ultra does take away a lot of stuff, but it has so many refinements that it makes it such a kind of sleeper good device, kind of like this device here. Look forward to the review coming soon. You know, I just got to get my editing going on and all that stuff, and that's always a pain in the butt. But anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I do hope you got something out of it. If there are any clarifying questions you have, leave those in the comments, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But for now, I will see you in the next video. Not now, obviously, later. I will see you in the next video.